of building socialism with distinctive Chinese features. Thanks to 70 years of hard work and dedication, we have turned a weak and impoverished agrarian country with backward productivity into the world's second largest economy, the largest industrial manufacturer, and the largest trader of goods, creating bright prospects for the great renewal of the Chinese nation. So this is what history has told us. The Chinese nation, long among the leading civilizations in the world history, has made unique and significant contribution to human progress. The profound historical and cultural heritage of the Chinese nation is in the genes of its people. What we long for is to see China regain its rightful place among the nations of the world and achieve great rejuvenation. The Chinese nation, as we know today, originates from a number of nationalities that embraced and integrated into one another throughout history. We are a peace-loving, open, and inclusive nation that keeps abreast of the times. While keeping the fine Chinese culture alive and strong, we also respect other civilizations and values, and draw inspirations from other cultures. As we continue to follow the socialist path with distinctive Chinese features, we will respect other people's independent choices of paths and systems. The Chinese culture values the teachings that one should help others to succeed while seeking one's own success, create a world for all, treat others with respect, and pursue women cooperation. We reject the practices of the strong bullying the weak and self-claimed supremacy. Today, China's interests and future are closely linked to those of the world. While developing itself, China also wishes to work with all countries for common development and a community with a shared future for mankind. The advances in China in the past 70 years are not a godsend, nor a gift from others. Rather, they are made by the Chinese people through vision, hard work, courage, reform, and innovation. By striving to meet people's aspirations for a better life, we can surely win their support. United as one, we Chinese can overcome various risks and challenges. A land of 9.6 million square kilometers, a people of nearly 1.4 billion, and a history of over 5,000 years. These are the underlying features of China, and they are the source from which China derives confidence in its path, theory, system, and culture. We have embarked on a right path that fits China's traditions and is in keeping with the trend of the times. And we will further improve and enrich socialism with distinctive Chinese features through reform and opening up. This is a path we believe in, and we will steadfastly forge ahead along this path. Ladies and gentlemen, in recent years, problems in the global economy, such as lack of new growth drivers, unbalanced development, and uneven income distribution, have intensified. New challenges brought by new technologies, new industries, and new forms of business have mounted. Many countries are increasingly looking inward when making policies. Barriers to international trade and investment are increasing, and unilateralism, protectionism, and populism are spreading in the world. All these are posing serious challenges to the international order. Will economic globalization move forward or reverse course?
The economic globalization, which gained rapid ground in the last century, was started by Western developed countries or the Mediterranean civilization. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, technological advances have significantly reduced the geographical distance and other barriers to exchanges among countries and accelerated the economic globalization process. The BRICS countries, Vietnam, Indonesia, and other emerging economies have risen. As a result, economic globalization has reached a new stage as we now know. Western multinational corporations and financial institutions are the main drivers of economic globalization. As they seek maximum profit in their operations, they allocate resources to countries with low-cost production factors and sound business environment when building global industrial chains. In this process, China has moved up from the low end to the medium and high end of the global industrial chain. The nearly 1.4 billion Chinese who are enjoying greater prosperity have unleashed huge demand backed by purchasing power. And this has unlocked enormous market potential that no one can afford to ignore. Economic globalization represents an inevitable trend of history, given the enormous potential that derives from harnessing the comparative advantages of countries and enhancing economic connectivity. In response to the problems and challenges in the world today, the international community needs to make serious and deep-going analysis and, more importantly, take collective actions in line with the trend proactively. Under market economy conditions, too much emphasis on efficiency often comes at the cost of equity. While there are both internal and external factors that cause a problem, the internal one plays the key role. Therefore, we must take a targeted approach to address the problems that have emerged in the process of economic globalization. Development imbalances need to be resolved through further development. Countries need to press ahead with structural reform, strike a right balance between equity and efficiency, adopt effective policy measures to prevent the worsening of income inequality, and fend off the impact on some regions and industries caused by new technologies and market competition, so that all people stand to gain from continued development. What we need to do is make the pie bigger while looking for ways to share it in a more equitable way. The last thing we should do is to stop making the pie and just engage in a futile debate on how to divide it. Shifting blame for one's own problems onto others will not resolve the problems. To address this problem, China's choice is to focus on managing our own affairs well. Socialism with distinctive Chinese features has entered a new era, yet China also faces the problem of imbalances in development. The principal issue confronting the Chinese society is that unbalanced and inadequate development cannot meet our people's ever-growing needs for a better life. We will pursue development as the top priority, promote coordinated economic, political, cultural, social, and ecological advancement, and move steadily towards making China a moderately prosperous society in all respects. We in China have continued to carry out reform across the board, resolving many tough issues and navigating dangerous rapids. Major headway has been made in supply-side structural reform. Digital economy and other emerging industries are flourishing, and an innovation-driven China is taking shape. Decisive progress has been made in key battles of poverty alleviation, with the number of rural people living in poverty cut by over 80 million since 2013. Thanks to stronger measures taken, China's environment has been further improved. The Communist Party of China, the governing party in China, has strengthened itself by strictly enforcing party discipline, and a crushing victory has been secured in fighting corruption. We in China have continued to promote opening up across the board, advance international cooperation on the Belt and Road Initiative, upgrade an open world economy, and work for a new type of international relations featuring mutual respect, equity, justice, and win-win cooperation under the principle of consultation and cooperation for shared benefit. China remains committed to building world peace, promoting global growth, and upholding the international order. Ladies and gentlemen,
新技术
new
是
technologies
机遇，
bring
也是
opportunities,
风险和挑
but they
战。
also create risks and
科学
challenges.
发现
Every
和技
major
术创
breakthrough
新，
in
每
scientific
一次更
discovery
大的
and
突破，
technological
都促
innovation
进了人
has
类社
greatly
会的
boosted
发展
human
和进步，
development and progress.
也会带来
But it has
价值
also
链
led to the restructuring of value chains, industrial chains, and supply chains,
打破现有
disrupt the balance in the economy,
国家
society,
乃至
and
地区
between
挑战旧的规则。
such breakthrough challenges the
国家
existing
内部
rules
的
and
经济
order.
社会管
As a
理
result, adjustments need to be made to both the economic and social governance of countries and global economic governance.
这次年会
We are meeting here under the theme Globalization 4.0, shaping a global architecture in the age of the fourth industrial revolution,
正当其
which
时
is。highly relevant.
当前正在发生的
The
第
fourth
四次
industrial
工业革
revolution,
命
with its
速度
speed,
如此之快，
scale,
规模如此之
and
大，系统如此
complexity,
之复杂，对人
and
类
the
社
way
会
it
改变
shapes
如
human
此之
society
深刻，
represents a
是一
significant
次影
revolution
响更
of
为
the
深远
globalization
的
process.
全球化进程。要以全
We
人
must
类命运
work together to shape
与共的
the
视
global
野和远
architecture
见，
in the
共
age
同
of
构
the
建
fourth industrial
第四次
revolution
工业革
with a
命时代
vision to
的
create
全球
a
架
better
构。
future for all mankind.
要守住全
We
人
need
类
to
安
uphold
全
the
的底线。
security of all
逐步
mankind.
探索
We
建立
need to
相关
explore
规
the
则和
adoption
标
of
准，
relevant rules and standards
同
in a
时为
phased way
科学发
while
展
leaving
发
broad
发
space for
现
the dissemination
和技术
and
创
application
新
of scientific
推广
discovery and
利用留下
technological
广阔的空
innovation.
间。要平
We
衡
need to
照顾各
accommodate in a
国，
balanced
特别
manner
是
the
新兴
interests
市
of all
场
countries,
国家
especially
和发
those
展
of
中国家
emerging
的
markets and
利益。
developing countries.
不能仅仅
One
以
should
发
not
达国
ask the
家、
whole
个别
world
国家
to
的安
address
全
only the
标准
security concern
要求全
and
世界。
comply only with the standards of
要
developed
尊
countries
重各
or
国主
individual
权，
countries.
不
It is
搞技术
imperative
霸
to
权，
respect national
不干涉
sovereignty
他
and
国内
refrain
政，
from seeking
不
technological
仇视，
hegemony,
不
interfering
纵
in other countries'
不保
domestic
护
affairs,
危害
and
其他
conducting,
国家安全的
shielding,
技术活
or
动，
protecting technology-enabled
尊
activities
重
that
各国
undermine
自
other
主
countries'
选择
national
的技
security.
术管理
We
模
need to
式，
respect the
公
independent
共政
choices
策
of model
和
of
平等
technology
参与
management
全球
and of
技
public
术治
policies
理
made
体
by
系的
countries
权
and their right to participating in the global
要坚持
technological
多边
governance
主义，
system as equals.
要相
We
互
need to
尊
uphold
重、相
multilateralism,
互信任的基
engage
础
in
上，
extensive dialogue
广
and
泛开
cooperation
展
based on
对
mutual
话合
respect
作，
and mutual trust,
构建
and
和平
jointly
安
build
全、
a system of rules for technology and new international cooperation framework featuring peace, security,
和国际合作
democracy,
新框架，
transparency,
使全人类
inclusiveness, and
都
mutual
能
benefit,
从技术创新中受
so
益。
that all people can gain from
要
technological
维护
innovation.
社会公平
We need to
正义，
uphold social
确
equity
保
and
技术
justice
创新
and ensure
在法治
technological
轨道
innovations are
和
made
公
in
认的国际
compliance
标
with the
准、
rule of law
国
and
际准则
internationally
基础上
recognized
运行，
norms, and that
由人
they
类
are
主导，
guided by
为
us
人类
humans,
服务，
meet our needs,
符合
and be
人类的价
compatible
值观，
with our values.
防止新
We need
技
to
术
prevent
成为
technological
实施
advances
恐
from
怖主义
being
的手
turned
段，
into tools of
违法
committing
犯罪的温
terrorism
床，
and
侵
crimes
害个人
or
权利的途
violating
径。
individual rights.
要改善政策
We
法
need to
律，
improve policy
促进
environment
社会繁
and
荣稳
promote
定，
social
既
prosperity and
尊重和
stability.
维护
We should
好
both
创
respect
新
and
主体的
protect the
权
rights
利
and
利
interests
益，
of
也
innovators.
为民众适应
At
技
the
术
same
的快
time,
速
we
进
should
步，
provide
提
necessary
供相应
education
的
and
教
training
育、
to enable the
培
public
训，
to adapt to the fast
使技术
advancement
进步
of
和
technology
普
and
通人
ensure
的
that
生
such
活就业
advancement
相结合，
helps raise
和
living
维护
standards,
环境
create
生态
jobs,
相结合，
protect the
和人
environment,
类的
and
长远利益
promote
相
the
结合。
long-term interests of mankind.
女士们、先生们，
Ladies and
世
gentlemen,
界在变
in
化，
this changing
前
world,
进
making advance
如登
is
山。
like climbing a mountain.
信仰、
It is
信
commitment,
念、
conviction,
信心
and confidence
支撑着
that
人类
drive
不
us
断地向前。
forward.
在经
In
济
this
全球
era
化
of
深入发
unfolding
展的时
economic
代，
globalization,
全人类
all of
利益
us
交融，
mankind share
命运
a
与共。
common stake.
瑞士寓
As a
瑞
Swiss
士的谚语说
proverb goes,
火炬
torches
会
light
互
up
相点燃，
each other.
让我们互
Let us
相
illuminate
照
the
亮
path ahead,
前路，
progress
携手前
together,
进，勇攀高
ascend
峰，
to the summit,
共创
and jointly
人
create
类的
a great future
美好
for
未来。
all mankind. kind.
谢谢。
Thank you.
很抱歉啊， 我宣读稿子呀。
I'm sorry.
刚才就想了一个问题。
When I was reading my speech, I was thinking about one thing.
打高尔夫啊，
I was
有一
thinking
个教
about
练的一个
when
训
playing
诫，
golf, there
就是
was
死
a
不抬头。
teaching from the coaches saying that you should never raise your head.
不管是 driver 还是推杆，
No matter you are the pusher or the
一
driver.
抬头准出毛病。
Because whenever you raise your head,
所以
there
刚
is
才
a
我
head
在
up,
想啊，
there will
念
be
这
a
个稿子的
problem.
时候，我就想，
So when I was reading
不抬头。
my speech, I was always reminding myself that I should not raise my head. But it was not easy to do that. I
因为
tried to
我没
do
有那个
it
隐性提示板。
without a heads up because I don't have this tipping
我们的软实力
screens
还没达到那一步，
beside me.
没有对我们这样的
Our
人
soft
进行
power
一些
has
什么演
not
讲的
reached
动
that
作训练。
stage, and people like us do not have spin doctors to teach me what to do on the stage.
我就没经过那个训练，
I myself have never received such trainings.
所以我想念稿子的时候最好就是
So I reminded
死不抬头
myself
把它念好。
when I read my
看来做
speech,
不到。
I have to do it well without raising
但
my
是呢，
head.
我注意到了，
But I found
每
it
当我
to
稍
be
微
not
一抬
easy.
头，他们
But
就想拍照。
whenever I try to raise my head, I see
我
people
又
try
想
to
起不抬头
film me,
又低下了。
try to take a photograph of me.
记者
And
朋
that's
友
why
有意见，
I
实际上
just
观众希
lowered
望
my
读
head.
稿子的人就
So
是
the
低头
journalists
念完就算了。
might have some
谢谢大家。
problem with it. So for the audience, I believe you might feel that it's good that I just read my speech. Thank you.
Vice President, congratulations for your speech, which gave us a deep insight into your thinking about the present world and about Chinese economy. I would like to follow up some of the points and add maybe some questions. First, in an important speech which President Xi Jinping made last month, actually, and I had the pleasure to be present at the conference on the 40th anniversary of China's reform and opening up. After 40 years of success, as you described it, China has come and has transformed itself tremendously into the second largest economy of the world. But what can we expect from the next phases of development? You mentioned it will be innovation-based, but can China really maintain the speed, even if we speak only about 6% of economic growth? We have to be aware this means doubling the economy in 12 years. So how do you see, you are the economic great thinker, how do you see the next phase of economic growth in China?
我的回答就是，
My
首先我
answer
刚才在讲稿里不是讲的40年，
is
我讲
that
的是70
in
年。
my speech, I was not
因为
just
今
talking
年
about
是
the
中华人
40
民共
years,
和
I
国
was talking
建
about the
国
70
70 周
years.
年。
This year marks the
再一
70th
个呢，
anniversary of the
对于中
founding
国经
of
济
the
的发
People's
展，
Republic and also for China's economic
我记得
development.
2016年，
I remember in the
我
year of
曾经有
2016,
过一次，参加过一次讨论，
I participated in a discussion on the Chinese
就是中国
economy.
呀，到2016年的时候，
By the end
如
of
果能够保持
2016,
每年
For China,
4.5的增速，
if we
我
were
们就
able to
能实
maintain a
现邓小平先
4.5%
生所
GDP
讲的
growth, we
全面
would
实
be
现小
able
康，
to deliver
国
a
民生
world
产
of
总值
society in
翻
all
两
respects
番的任
and
务。
the doubling of our GDP, a task put forth by Mr.
现
Deng
在
Xiaoping.
6.6，
Now
我
the
认为
number
这
is
是一个相当不低的速
6.6.
度
I
了。
think this is a pretty significant
恐怕我
number,
们现
not
在
low
在
at all.
全国，在不管是在市场还是
Possibly
政府，
in the whole country,
我们党提
be
倡
it the
的
government, be it the
都是让
market,
大家记住，
the CPC is trying
速度
to
固然重要
remind，people
但是
that
眼前
speed
更重要的是
does
结构。
matter, but what
质量
really matters
和效
for the time being is the quality and efficiency of our economic development.
所以呢，
That is why
我总体的看法，
In my view,
尽管存在着各种风险、挑战和困
despite
难，
the challenges,
我以为
risks, and difficulties we face,
我们
I
在2020年实
believe
现全
that
面小康的
by
任务，已
2020
经
we'll
不
be
是
able
问题了。
to deliver our mission
我以为
of
只会超过我们的
achieving
预期目标
a，society of
绝不
initial
会
prosperity
达不
in
到。
all respects. I believe
这
we'll
已经是
only
不争的
attain the
事实了。
goals exceeding the
我
expectations.
不管在不
This
确定
is
的
an
19年会
undisputable
发生什
fact.
么，大概率
Well,
确定
there will be a lot of
中国的发展
uncertainties in 2019, but
是会可持续。
something that is certain is that China's
回答完毕。
economy, China's growth will continue and will be sustainable. That's the end of my answer for this question.
Mr. Vice President, you spoke about the need of globalization, and you mentioned globalization has to be more balanced, integrating the new powers, more inclusive globalization. Now, there is a backwards movement to globalization, and many countries have to deal with populists who negate the need of globalization, or who pursue egoistic, self-centered interests. What would you say to those people who put globalization, to those populist people who put globalization into question?
My general feeling is that globalization represents a trend of history.
在全球化这个历史的潮流进展过程中，
As this trend of history progresses,
应该说是必然的。
imbalance is something
从哲学的
inevitable.
意义上来讲，
Inevitable.
平
In
衡是相对的。
philosophical terms, balance is relative, but imbalance is the absolute
那么现在
reality.
出现了不平衡，
So now we do face a lot of
有人们
imbalances,
在不平衡中
and
感受到不
in the
平衡
middle
的一
of
些人们
imbalances, for
做
those
出了一些反应
groups，of people
我认为
who
是
feel
合
the
情合
imbalance,
理，
they are making
也
their
是必然。
responses. I believe it is
根本的
understandable,
问题，
and this is inevitable.
我看还
So
是
the
要什么
fundamental issue
坚持
in
刚才
my
我在
view
稿子里所讲
is
的，
to stick to
坚持
the
把这个蛋糕做
approach
大的过程
I
中，
mentioned in my speech. That is, we have to continue to
各
make the
国
pie
政府
bigger.
要
And
在
in this course,
消
governments
除不
of all
平衡
countries have to do something
公
to
平和
reduce
效率的选
imbalance,
择上，
to strike a
采
better
取
balance
各种
between
政策
efficiency
措施，
and equity, put in
来
place
尽
policy
可能
measures
的
to
啊，
do
使
whatever
这
they
个不
can
平衡
to
不再继续的，
make sure that this
扩大。
imbalance will not
而且
aggravate
遏制这种扩
and
大
try
的
to
趋势。
contain the
我认为
momentum of expanding
全
imbalance.
球化
So
就
in
会
my
得到
view, if
进
that
一
is
步的
done,
保障。
globalization
而
will
对
have
全球
further
化
guarantee.
由于不平衡而提出质疑
And
的
for
人
those
群，
people who question
在自己的利
globalization
益
because
得
of the
到了一定的
imbalances,
保障的
once
情况
their
下，
interests
这个
are
回
well
头浪
protected,
就
this
会消
counter
除，
wave against
而这个潮流
globalization
才能
will
浩浩
phase
荡
out,
荡。
and
回答
the
完
trend
毕。
of history will continue to surge forward. That's the end of my answer.
Vice President, 2 years ago when President Xi Jinping was here, and I remember he pointed out that the global economy, the world, was facing 3 challenges. First, the lack of robust driving forces. Second, for growth. Second, inadequate global economic governance. And number 3, uneven global development. Now we may be at the end of an economic upswing cycle. It was one of the longest upswing cycles after World War II. And we face, as our global risk report has shown, many risks. So we may be faced with a global crisis again. Do we feel we are well equipped for mastering a new global downturn and What could your country contribute to avoid such a risky situation? How could your country contribute managing the risks?
习近平主席前
President
年
Xi, when he was
在这儿
here
发
2
表
years
的讲
ago,
话，对全世界影响巨大。
in his speech,
说实在的，
I believe his
去年的
speech
刘
had a
鹤
major impact
今年
on
的
the
我
world.
到这儿
Last year,
来
Vice Premier Liu He was here,
参与
and this year I am
论
here.
坛，
The
我们实际
participation
上
of all of us
在
here
帮
at
助大
this
家
forum
读懂
is
习
geared
近平主席的讲
actually
话。
to try to help the audience better
你们想
understand
想刚才我
President
那
Xi's
个
message.
我刚才所宣读的稿子里头，
Remember that
实际
in
上
what
是
I said
读
in my
懂
speech
新时
just
代
now, I
中国特
said
色
that
社
we
会
have
主义
to
思想的
understand better
一个什么？应该说是一个引导
the
性或
socialist
者善使
thinking
性
in China in the new era. So I try to make some explanation to this new thinking, what it's all about
我以为
in this new era.
刚才你所讲的
In my
经济
view,
周期
what you
到了一
said,
个什么？到了一个低端，
you mentioned that we
也
are
可能要
approaching the
发生
end of the
经济危
upswing
机。
in economic development, and there is the
我想用这样
possibility
的话
of
来
an
说
economic crisis.
是福是祸躲不过。
So, as the saying goes, be it a blessing, be it a bad luck, we cannot shine away from it. So,
另外，
what
是不是
if
这
there
个
is
周
really
期
a
就到底
crisis?
了？我
Is
看
it true
仁
that
者
we are
见仁，
approaching
智
the
者
end
见
of
智
the upswing? I believe there are different
就
perspectives
好像
on
刚才
this.
我回答你的问题，
This is like when I
对
answered your
中国的
question
发
just
展
now. For
现在
China's
也是
development,
一种发
there
展到
are
头了，
all sorts of views. Someone
对不对？
is saying that China is approaching the end of
已
its
经到头
growth, or we have
不
already
是我们的态度。
reached the end of the growth. But
我
if you
们
ask
不
us,
仅没到头，
we believe
我
that
们
we
还
have
可
not
持续。
approached the end. We're actually
所以仁者见
pursuing
仁，
more
智者
sustainable
见智。
growth. So it's really something
做好
that
自己
takes
的
all
事情。
sorts of different views and
中国
conclusions.
发展好了，
What matters is that we
中国和
manage
世
our own
界经
affairs
济的
well.
这种
For
现在
China,
的
if
交
its
融性
economy is doing okay,
互补
then
性
given the connectivity
本身
between the
就是
Chinese
对
economy
全
and the
人
rest
类
of
和
the
全
world,
世界
I
经
believe this
济的贡
itself,
献。
good economic performance in China is a
我有一个
contribution
看法。
to the world economy and to
2008 年的
humanity. I have a view.
金融危
In
机
2008, the global financial crisis,
为什么那么快就过去了？
how come the crisis passed so
没有像
fast?
上个世纪
Unlike the previous crisis
20
of
年代
the
末
last
产
century,
生大萧条。其实
we
我
had
个
a
人
major
的看
depression
法，
as a
有
result
一个重要
of
的
the
原因
previous
是
crisis.
新兴
My
经
personal
济体国
view
家
is that an important reason is
进入了全
due
球
to
化
the rise of the emerging markets and their participation in
才把
globalization.
华尔街的金融危机在很短的
That's
时间内
something that
应
enabled
该说度
the
过去。
crisis originating from the Wall Street
在这点上，我一
being
直是这样的看法。
dealt with
因为我
in a
了解中国。
relatively short span of time. That's always my view.
有的人在说，
Because I know China
说这个
well.
病是华尔街、美国得的，怎么
Someone
中国
is
用的
saying
药
that,
比华尔
well,
街
the
还猛
disease
啊？
is,
Huh?
cured,
所以说
is accumulated
08年
in
金
the
融危
Wall
机之
Street,
后
but it seems that the
中国政
Chinese
府
are
所
taking more
采取
medicines
太
than Wall Street people.
措施
So,
反映了
since the
中
global
国是
financial
负责任
crisis,
的。
all the measures and policies adopted by the
确确实
Chinese
实
government reflects the fact that the
在经济的
Chinese
发展上，
government is a
我
responsible
们当
government.
时是吧？应该说
Indeed,
是吧？
when
所
we
采
looked
取的
at
政策措
China's
施，
economic
应该
reality
说是
in those
助
years,
力了
the
全球
policies China put in place in
很
those
快地度
years
过危机。
helped the whole world
所
to
以这就是
put the crisis behind
不是
in
说
a
中
speedy
国，我
fashion.
认为新兴经济体国家，
So China is not
有这份
alone in
贡献。
doing so. In my view, all the
所
emerging
以呢
markets，
总体呢，
are making
我对
such a
前景是乐
contribution.
观的。
That is why
至于
I'm
说
still
到
and optimistic
万一
about the prospect of the world
底
economy.
线思维
But we have always to
真发
have
生危
this
机，就是刚才我
bottom
那
line
句话，
approach. We have to
哎
prepare for
我
the
认为
worst case scenario.
是吧？
So
就好像
in the case of a crisis,
就好像感冒发
in
烧
my
一样
view, this is like when you catch a cold. When you catch a cold,
最后考
when you
验的是什么
have a？fever
全人类的
what really matters
这种
is
智慧和辛劳。
whether the whole humanity have
从
the
历史、
wisdom
哲学、文
to
化来
tide
思
over the
考，
difficulties in philosophical
而人
and
类不会为一次危
historical
机所难
terms.
倒。
I don't
反
think
过来，
a a crisis,
发烧正是考验
any
免
crisis
疫
is
力
big
的
enough
时机。
to crush
我是这
humanity.
么看的。
Actually, it's an
所以
opportunity.
呢，
We test our wisdom and vision
我首
and
先
ability.
我并不认同，是吧？
So, firstly, I do not
一定有危
agree
机，
with the view that,
但
well,
是
there's
我也
bound
不
to
能
be a
说在这个
crisis,
不确定的世界
but
里
we do live in an
啊
uncertain world.
发生危机怎么办？
So,
我的看法就是这样。
crises are likely. So, in the cases of crisis, the
Vice
above mentioned
President,
are my
in this
view.
case, no worry about the Chinese debt situation?
我对中国的经济啊，刚才我的
Well,
第一
actually,
个问题实际上都回答
When I
了。
answered the first
这是重
question, I
复的
talked
问
about the
题。
Chinese economy. So this
我说
is
实在的，
a repetition of the previous
要
question.
说起问题来，
So when
我
we
可以说难
talk
过
about
的要命；
the problems,
要说起成绩来，
we
我
may
高
feel
兴的要
extremely
死。
sad. But when we talk about the achievements, we could be extremely
现在
happy.
如果把我这种看法对中国，
So
如果放大到全球，
View on China,
也一
when
样。
this is applied on a mega scale to the whole
但
world,
是我
I
总体
believe the
我是个乐
conclusion
观派。
will remain the same. But on the whole, I'm an optimist.
那幸好啊，
Luckily,
我看到蓬佩奥昨天在视
well,
频上对
I noticed that
开幕式的发
Secretary
言，
Pompeo
他好像也是乐
delivered
观派。
a view, his
他都是
speech
乐观
via
派，我
the
只能比他
video,
更乐观。
the teleconference. Well, he seems to be an optimist. Well, since he's an optimist, possibly I'm even more
Now,
optimistic
that
than
leads me
he
to the
is.
last question. And I'm sure that the many Americans in the audience are waiting for this question. Because the US-China relationship is the most important bilateral relationship in the world today. And of course, the world is very concerned about the future directions of this relationship. Could you please share with us how you see the nature of the worsening of the relationship between the two countries and how this relationship, which is so crucial for the world, could be repaired and enhanced?
中美的经济
For the Chinese and
谁
US
也离不开谁。
economies, I
已经
believe
是现实。
they are in a state of mutually indispensable. This is a reality.
所以
Either side
结
can
论
do
就是
without the
互
other
利共
side.
赢。
So the conclusion is
合则
that
两利，
there has to be mutual
斗则
benefit
两
and
伤。
win-win. Cooperation serves both
这就
interests
是基
while
本判断。
confrontation harms the interest of both sides. This is a basic judgment.
Vice President, I have to follow up. Yes, but there are certain conflicts, and Secretary Pompeo was quite, I wouldn't say optimistic, but he foresees some progress made in the coming days. And we know it's not only a trade relation, it's not only related to trade issues, it's related to many other, particularly to issues related to the fourth industrial revolution. Just one last word on this issue.
我总的感觉到，刚才我对第四次工业革命我也讲了，
Well, I
实
talked
际上
about
呢，
the
第
fourth
四次工业
industrial
革命是生产
revolution.
力方向，
I think this
生产力发生
revolution
变
is
化。
about
第
productivity.
四次工业革命的根
When
本还在于
productivity
什么？
changes, the
还在
root
于
of the
科学
fourth
的发现
industrial
和技术
revolution
的创新。
still lies in scientific discoveries and technological innovation.
那么说句实在话，第四次工业革命
As a matter of fact, the fourth industrial revolution
发展呢，刚才我讲了，发展中的不出现的问题要靠发展来解决。
Well,
而
in
发
the
展
course
中
of development,
的
we have to
动力
address
的
the
源
problems
在哪儿呢？
of development.
恰恰
Where
在
does
于
the
科
drivers
学
come from? I
和
believe
技
the
术。
driving forces are coming from science and technology.
4.0工业，第四
Fourth
次工业革命
industrial
预
revolution,
示着
Industry
发展有
4.0,
新的 技术创新的新动
herald
能，
the new
它必然
drivers of
使我们的发展
growth,
是吧
new
呈
drivers
现
of
出新的面貌，
technological progress.
也
They are bound
带来
to
给
deliver
全
a
人类
new outlook
带来
for our
福祉
development,
和
and
希
they
望
are。bound to bring
但同时呢，它
hopes
一定
and
挑战着一
blessings
些
for
规则
humanity. But at the same time, it is
和标准。
bound to challenge some existing
所以我
standards
们对
and
这个规
rules.
则和标准，
So for those
那就要
standards
大
and
家
rules,
真正的从实际出发，
it is up to every one of
来不
us
断的与时俱进的
take a realistic
调整
and pragmatic approach to
来
make
改
corresponding changes in keeping with the
规则
times
不能
to
碰
gradually
到发展的
change
前面
them, and the rules should not
这是刚
be
才我讲
walking
的，
ahead of
也是呼应这个
development.
主题。
That's one of the
就
key
现在有
messages
些
of my
理想
speech.
化的人呢，
I was trying to echo
经
the
常
theme
啊
of the forum.
这事儿还没
There are certain
还没发
people
展起
who
来
are
呢，他就
very
要定标准、定规
idealized.
则。
So before a new thing has emerged and taken shape, they try to set
我曾
the
经
rules
在
for
中
them.
国央行
They
工
try
作
to
的时
set
候
the
管
standards
金
for
融
them.
监管，
I was in charge of financial supervision
我曾经讲
when I
过一个
was
故事。
working at the central bank in China.
中国
I
历史
used to
上叫
tell
做
a story in Chinese history.
魔高一丈，魔高一尺，道高一丈。
There
我
was
说这句
a
话不对，
story of a devil
Ah.
and a
我
demon.
就举了个例子，
So when the devil is 8 inches tall
我说
and the demon
警察呢，
might be 10 inches tall.
严格意
So I
义上
was
永
trying
远
to
走
do
在
an
小偷
analogy
的后面。
between the policeman and the thief. It is like the policeman is always in
我
one
如果要
step
警察老
behind
走
the
在小
thief.
偷的前
Because
面，
if the policeman is always
小偷
one
一想偷东西，
step
警察
ahead
已
of
经
the
坐那儿
thief,
了。
before the thief
那世
tries
界
to
上就没有
steal,
小偷
the
了。
police is always always there. In that case, there
我
will be
说
no
监
thieves
管
in
和
the
市场
world.
的关系
So this is
也
like
是这
the
样。
relationship between the regulators and the market.
所以我说，修改一句话，
So
魔高一尺，
I said
道高8寸5。
on the spot that when the devil
也
is
就是说
10 inches tall, maybe the
对吧？
bigger demon should be
警察和
8.5
小偷
inches tall. So this
如果
is like
偷
the
的东西
relationship between the thief and the
啊
policeman.
小偷啊，
So
60%
for
的小偷都能被抓获，
60% of
被
the
偷来的
thieves,
东西都能找
if
回
they
来。
could be caught
我觉
and
得基本上
things
小偷就会
stolen
少。
could be recovered, then we'll have
但是
significantly
你要说，
fewer
如果没有
thieves.
小偷是
But
不
if
可
there are
能的。
no thieves at all, I believe
这
that
就
will
是
be
理想和
too
理想
good to
化
be
的区
true.
别。
That's the
这
difference
就
between
是
having
监管和
ideals
市场
and
的区
becoming
别。
idealized.
这就是
That's
标
the
准
difference between
和创
regulators
新的
and
区
the
别。
marketplace, and that's the
刚才
difference
我讲的
between
内容里头，
standards
等
and
于你这个
innovation.
问题，我又把它再重复地
Actually, I
阐述
delivered those messages
这讲
in
清
my
楚。
speech, but I
有利
tried
于大家
to
理解我这个稿
expound
子
on
为
my
什么要这么
thinking
讲。
in answering this question of yours.
回答完毕。
That's the end of my answer.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. When President Xi Jinping was here, he also quoted Charles Dickens, and he said, "We are living in the best of all times, and we are living in the worst of all times." And I think we agree. What we have to do is to use the technology and apply the fourth industrial revolution to the benefit of all people in the world in an equal way, and then we have achieved the objective.
狄更斯先生《双城记》的这段话，
In The Tale of Two Cities
太
of
哲学
Charles Dickens,
立于不败之地。
that line of Dickens is
什
so
么时候说都是
philosophical,
正确的。
and that places him in an
一个
invincible
最繁荣
situation
的，
because it is the right thing to say
雅典，
under all circumstances.
也是一个
A
最腐败的
prosperous
雅典。
Athens city is at the same
一个
time
最
a
繁
most
荣的
corrupt
罗马，
Athens city.
也是一
A
个
most
最腐败
prosperous
的罗马。
Rome city is
这
at
在
the same
欧
time the
洲历
most
史上
corrupt
早就用过
Rome city. Well, that has
并
been
不
the
是狄
saying
更斯
in
先
Europe
生
in history for many, many
符合
years
辩证法。
before Charles Dickens.
一
That
分为二。
is in line with dialectical
事物
approach.
总是两面的，
There are always
成
two
绩
sides of the same coin.
就一定有挑战。
When we have
成
accomplishments,
绩
there
越
will
大，
always be
挑战风险
challenges
也越大。
and risks.
成
The
绩
bigger
越
the
大，
achievements,
代
the
价
bigger the
一定越
challenges. The bigger the achievement, the bigger the cost. Vision of human being or shadow of building is commensurate with their size. You have a bigger shadow than I do because you are taller than me.
And now we end with a philosophical, basic discussion. Thank you very much, Vice President. Thank you.